Just into the newsroom, officials have evacuated 2 polling locations in Fulton County, Georgia, after they received bomb threats.
And that is the breaking story that I have for you, and it includes an FBI statement and warning about bomb threats that I will share with you in just a minute. But it's not the only FBI warning that is currently circulating or the only news about election interference. Please have a look at this just released CBS video that will bring you up to speed on several important stories related to Election Day polling place threats and misinformation.
The FBI is warning Americans about 2 new fake videos that were likely created by a Russian disinformation group. They make false claims about terror threats and voter fraud. In a statement, the FBI says it, quote, was made aware of 2 instances of its name and insignia being misused in promoting false narratives surrounding the election. It went on to say, quote, attempts to deceive the public with false content about FBI threat assessments and activities aim to undermine our democratic process and erode trust in the electoral system.
So the FBI came out today with a new warning about these new videos that look like they come from the FBI. Now, they have their logo on them and they look very professionally produced. They claim that there are some threats to voter stations, but also that there's voter fraud happening across the United States. Now, the FBI says these are not our videos. We did not produce these. Now, the CBS News Confirmed team also found that this same group, which is likely Russian disinformation actors, also created videos that looked like CBS News reporting and Fox News reporting that warned people to stay home from the polls, warning about a fabricated terror threat. And they typically put out these videos mimicking officials and mimicking news organizations. And it's prompted officials to come out and make these warnings so that people don't get misled and that they do actually show up to vote.
There have been plenty of misinformation campaigns, particularly in battleground states. This morning, though, voting machines went down in Cambria County, Pennsylvania. That's about 72 miles east of Pittsburgh. What are you hearing about what's going on there? What's real, what's not?
So there was an issue this morning. So a local court actually extended voting hours from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. So there were some issues with software there this morning that prevented some people from scanning their ballots. Now, there was a backup in place. People were still able to proceed with paper ballots, and local officials said that, they will be able to vote. Everyone will be able to cast their vote. So the important thing to remember here is there's always backups in place if there are any issues, and there will be issues. But what we're seeing online is people are picking up these isolated incidents. They're pointing to the fact that former President Donald Trump won this county in 2020 and making all kinds of allegations that people are not being able to vote.
Got to be quick with you on this, but there have also been a number of allegations that non-citizens are voting in Pennsylvania. What can you tell us?
So in Philadelphia, a new video yesterday that racked up millions of views alleged that non-citizens were allowed to vote in Philadelphia or being signed up. Local officials come out very strongly against this today. They said there's no evidence of this, that only citizens can vote in federal elections. And actually, the Philadelphia DA came out today as well, and he said there is no evidence of this, and that if people do have legitimate evidence of voter fraud, they can come to him, but they have absolutely no evidence of it.
So this is our new normal. Journalists have to unravel misinformation and fear-mongering on Election Day. Thanks, Donald Trump. And now for the breaking bomb threat story by CNN out of Georgia that points to Russian interference and includes the FBI response, and then stick around for a very compelling explanation on why Russia does it and which candidate it serves, and it reveals that it's not just Russia.
We are just learning that several voting locations in Georgia may be staying open later. The reason for this is non-credible bomb threats were actually made at 2 polling locations. So let's go to Sarah Murray. Sarah, what have you learned about these specific bomb threats, where they were, and obviously to emphasize, it turns out they were not credible?
Polling precincts actually had to close for about 30 minutes to an hour while security did a sweep, confirmed that they were non-credible. We should note at all 177 polling places across Fulton County, which is where I am, though this was not one of the places affected today, there are police officers there to help address these threats. Now, Georgia Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger held a news conference earlier where he said their understanding is the threats were of Russian origin. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We've heard some threats that were of Russian origin, and so I don't know how to describe if that's viable. We don't think they are, but in the interest of public safety, you always check that out, and we'll just continue to be very responsive when we hear about stuff like that. We identified the source, and it was from Russia.
So that is the what's happening, and if you've stuck around this long, I hope you continue and learn from this fascinating video that taught me why it's happening, who it benefits, and names the 2 other U.S. adversaries that are also engaged in election espionage and sabotage. I will leave you with this report from Bloomberg featuring the brilliant breakdown from Ian Bremmer, and I look forward to waking up tomorrow with bombshell news of a different kind and bringing you stories of a blue wave and better days ahead.
There are three countries, adversaries of the United States, that are really actively trying to interfere in U.S. elections. They all share one goal, which is that they want the United States to mistrust its own political institutions. They want more chaos in the United States. They want the U.S. to be weaker. But what they're trying to accomplish is actually very different. It's Russia, it's Iran, and it's China. Russia's interference has overwhelmingly been in favor of Trump. They really want Harris to lose. They think they'll have a much better shot of resolving the Ukraine war in their favor if Trump is the president. The Iranians, who really want Harris to win, they actually, in addition to interference and also leaking all sorts of classified, components of the Trump campaign that they wanted the U.S. media to run with, they've also tried to assassinate Trump and members of Trump's cabinet, like Mike Pompeo. And I'm kind of stunned that hasn't gotten more media attention, frankly. And then you've got the Chinese, who, of course, are much more involved just in collecting intelligence on everybody involved in the election. But their interference has been mostly on the down ballot in Congress, where they feel like no matter what they do, they're dealing with a very, very strong and bipartisan anti-China sentiment. And they're trying to put their thumb on the scale in favor of those few that are running in Congress that move in the other direction.